All right, Canada, it's Friday. It is your last word is the last word of the week because we have our, of course, weekend special tomorrow, our weekend wrap, and then we're going to hold another special on Sunday about the conservative defections because I wanted to switch to this story instead for ending up your Friday. Some good news and a little bad news with it. Something's not adding up in Canada's economy, and it's not because of tariffs, and it's definitely not because of Mark Carney's glowing leadership. We just got the October jobs report, which was relatively positive from Statistics Canada. And on the surface, it looks like good news. 67,000 jobs added. Unemployment down to 6.9%. Wages up 3.5%. It sounds pretty good. It sounds like the start of a nice recovery story, doesn't it? Except it isn't necessarily, and also it's rather questionable. These aren't signs that Carney's government is fixing the economy. We know they haven't even started anything, really. It's just all been announcements about announcements. There are signs, though, that ordinary Canadians are hustling harder than ever to stay afloat in a system that is failing them. And yet, when CTV, and they're not the only ones, by the way, but when this is them, when they get their hands on these numbers, they can't just say that Canadians might be pushing harder than ever. They twist it to another liberal-friendly bedtime story about resilience. The headline, of course, basically reads that Canada's labor market caught economists off guard with a second straight month of surprise job gains. Wow, what happened? Right there, they lower the bar, right then and there. They frame it as a lucky break, a surprise to everyone, rather than the logical outcome of millions of Canadians taking on side hustles, second jobs, and part time gigs just to survive a cost of living crisis their government refuses to solve. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our conversation down below. Let's start with the data itself. Employment rose again in October, building on September's gains. That's 2 months in a row. Ontario, the province supposedly crushed by U.S. tariffs, led the way with 55,000 jobs. Curious. Wholesale and retail trade added 41,000 jobs. Transportation and warehousing up 30,000 jobs. These are significant numbers. Even manufacturing, the tariff victim, as we've been told, gained nearly 9,000 positions. But construction slipped. And that's not a trade issue, is it? That's a housing crisis issue. So why are we still hearing about a trade war? Because the Liberals need a distraction. The Liberals still need Donald Trump bad. They need Orange Man bad. Their entire 2025 budget narrative is around fighting foreign threats, tariffs, trade tensions, global headwinds, while ignoring the actual problem here in Canada. The fire burning in their own backyard, which is housing affordability, food inflation, collapsing small business margins, and families who cannot pay their rent and their mortgages. CTV could have used this moment to point that out. They could have used this moment to say, wait a second. With all these jobs being added, then maybe tariffs aren't the real story here. Instead, they double down on the government's scapegoat. They write and twist, and we'll talk about the twist in a second, but they write goods producing industries have shed 54,000 positions since January, when uncertainty around U.S. tariffs started to ramp up. That's total spin. That is complete and utter spin. In fact, if you look at the Statistics Canada report today, it didn't say tariffs caused any of these losses. They said the decline was largely reflecting decreases in construction and manufacturing. Construction, a sector crushed by interest rates, government delays, and horrific policy, and the failure to deliver the hundreds of thousands of new housing units Mark Carney promised this election campaign. This is what happens when the media becomes the message arm of the Liberal government. They filter every statistic through a Liberal lens. Good news becomes fragile. Oh, it's good news, but I mean, Trump and tariffs, oh, the jobs are going to plummet again. Bad news becomes Trump's fault, so if this was the other way around, it's Donald. And the real crisis get buried, which is the cost of living crisis. Because here's what CTV didn't tell you in this. In the same report, Statistics Canada said 27.7% of Canadians are living in households struggling to meet basic ends meet, their basic needs. 1 in 4 people can't cover transportation, food, or rent without stress. This was in this report. CTV never mentions it. Food bank use is at record highs. And yet, the 2025 budget poured billions into global initiatives and international cooperation frameworks that don't truly exist as agreements, while Canadians are lining up for groceries like it's wartime. And this is where the story turns. Those new jobs that we're seeing, the new jobs reported here, they aren't a result of government leadership. The government has nothing to do with these new jobs. They're a response to government failure. People are taking on second and third jobs to deal with soaring grocery prices, doubled mortgage payments, and rent hikes that would make New York blush. If you look at most of this job report, it's mostly part-time gigs. It's people taking on extra work. The report said part-time work rose by 85,000 in October. 85,000! That's not an economic victory. That's survival mode. But among all of our citizens, among you and I. Canadians aren't prospering under Mark Carney. They're compensating for him. They're making up for him. But CTV won't say that, neither will any of the other liberal paid media. Instead, they quote economists like Leslie Preston saying it's not a home run and this is not strength. Because if you say it's strength, then what of Donald Trump's tariffs, right? What a convenient middle ground. It makes the government look cautiously competent while keeping the public cautiously nervous. Oh, these are good numbers, but just wait till November. They talk about resilience instead of affordability, recovery instead of real wages. They even pivot the conversation to the Bank of Canada as if interest rates are the only story that matters here. You know why they do that? Because if they talked about why Canadians can't afford their house anymore, why Canadians can't afford their food or their heating, they'd have to admit that those are all domestic policy failures. And in the recent budget, there's almost nothing to address domestic policy. Let's look closer at the so-called tariff hit Ontario, for example. It's adding jobs. Unemployment is dropping in Ontario, and wages are inching up. If tariffs were the problem, that shouldn't be happening. But it is, because the real story is that Canadians adapt faster than government policy does. The economy isn't being saved by Mark Carney's trade strategy. It's being carried on the backs of workers who refuse to give up, who refuse to put their families in a precarious position, who refuse to ever have to look their children in the eye and tell them that we can't eat tonight. That's not Mark Carney's success. That's yours. That's you doing that. Now let's talk about construction, the one sector that actually declined, because this just proves the point further. This is where the government's priorities should have been laser focused. Housing affordability is collapsing. They know this. Developers are shelving projects because of red tape, taxes, and interest rates. Young families are locked out of home ownership. Construction workers are losing hours while the government themselves throws money at foreign companies, foreign countries, foreign partnerships, and new climate branding schemes. Remember our talk this morning about the Student Environmental Corps? Great, glad they got funding. If you want to know why this report doesn't feel like good news, it's because Canadians know that these job gains don't fix the bigger picture, which is cost of living, rent, and food. And here's what's truly unforgivable in all of this. The 2025 budget didn't even try to address the cost of living issue in Canada, the number one issue. It bragged about a $1.6 billion youth employment fund we talked about this morning, temporary placements, summer jobs, resume programs, not even apprenticeships that could have helped build actual careers, but nothing on long-term affordability whatsoever, actually. Nothing meaningful for housing supply, nothing to bring grocery bills or inflation down. The Liberals spent more money on the CBC than on food bank relief in this budget. Let that one sink in. While the media celebrates this resilience, supposedly, real people are standing in line for canned goods and skipping meals so their kids can actually eat. So, no, this job report is not a win for Mark Carney. It is a positive to show that you guys are putting in the effort for side hustles and other things, but it's a warning for him. It shows that despite his policies, not because of them, Canadians are finding ways to work harder, longer, and smarter just to survive his inflationary experiment. The private sector added 73,000 jobs, its first increase since June, because businesses are desperate to fill gaps left by government inefficiency, not because of some brilliant economic vision from Ottawa. And if they try to take credit for this, just knock them down, folks, because they don't get a cent of credit on this one. And through all of this, the media keeps running interference for them. CTV calls the economy resilient to trade tensions. Is that really what's happening here, or were the trade tensions never really the problem? They say it as if Canadians owe their endurance to Carney's diplomacy, but they don't. Canadians are resilient to their government, not because of it. Every side hustle, every weekend shift you're taking on, every new job created despite sky-high taxes and a broken housing industry, that's the Canadian spirit kicking in. That's the Canadian spirit pulling this country forward while Ottawa and its liberals hold it back. So here's the truth, whether you want to see it or not. The October jobs report doesn't prove that tariffs are harmless. It proves that tariffs were never the problem in the first place. The real problem is misplaced priorities. While Mark Carney plays global statesman and CTV plays cheerleader along with CBC and Global and Toronto Star and Globe and Mail, the issues crushing Canadians, like cost of living, housing, food prices, your energy bills, well, they keep getting worse. You know it because you open the mail every month. The Liberals built an entire economic message around international image management while ignoring the crisis in their own streets, while ignoring the crisis when you open your mail, while ignoring the crisis when you go to pay a bill and there's nothing there to pay it. If this government actually cared about Canadians, the 2025 budget would have targeted affordability first. It would have cut taxes on necessities, fast-tracked housing approvals for real, not their kind of housing approvals, and redirected foreign aid vanity spending into domestic infrastructure. Instead, they chose global optics over national well-being under the guise that they will attract investment, and the media applauded them for it. But that's not what's going to happen. So let's stop pretending this jobs data is proof of a strong economy, because it does help, but it's not proof. It's proof that Canadians are strong, that people living under weak leadership are strong. It's proof that despite policy blunders, bureaucratic waste, and media spin, the average citizen still gets up every day and makes this country function. And until the government starts rewarding that hard work instead of taxing and gaslighting it, these jobs and all the gains around them will mean nothing, because 99% of them are part-time. They're side hustles. You're taking this on. You are the strong person here. You are the economy maker, not your government. And that is scary, considering the amount of money the government takes from you to try and create the economy. It sounds more like a cover-up to me. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things on your Friday. I am thrilled you were here for the last word. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below. Are you taking on part-time and side hustles that could be contributing to these numbers to just help your family eat? I want to hear about it. What are you doing? What extra things are you doing to combat the cost of living, since your government won't? And they proved again this week that they won't by leaving almost all of it out of the budget. Then, of course, come back here tomorrow for our weekend wrap, and we'll do a Sunday special on all of these scary conservative defections. What could possibly be going on? We'll talk about it on Sunday as well. Thanks for being here. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. We'll see you tomorrow on the Weekend Wrap.